What's up, guys? Welcome to the Knowledge Gap Show, where I help you master your purpose and grow your business. I'm your host, Joe Ignace. Today I talk about how every single leader and business owner struggles with self-deception, why you need to ask for feedback in every aspect of your life, especially your business and leadership. We'll take a look at why businesses fail using Kodak as a case study. Finally, we'll react to a video from Jocko, Willink talking about keeping your ego in check. Super valuable. Guys, at the very end, I'm going to be giving you some awesome tips. I'm going to be showing you how this applies to growing your business. So stick around for the whole episode. You're not going to want to miss this. All right, if you're someone who's ever had a ton of success in business, for a good amount of time, right, you probably know that success comes in cycles. And sometimes you're up in this cycle and sometimes you're down. And usually when you're up, you feel really great about yourself, everything's rocking, and we tend to get a little bit complacent, which usually leads to the next trough or the next downward trend or downward spiral in your business, and you hit that bottom. And at the bottom, you're struggling and pain causes change. You start to change, you fix the kinks, and you get right back on top and you go back and forth, back and forth. And what I'm gonna teach you today is gonna help you to avoid going back and forth so often. Instead, what if you worked and focused as hard on your business when it was successful as when you were trying to work out problems? And that's where self-deception comes in and why you need to ask for feedback. And that's where self-deception hurts a lot of leaders and business owners from growing what they're doing, and why asking for feedback is going to revolutionize the way that you actually run your business. So this is exactly what happens in business with somebody like Kodak. So if you don't know what Kodak is, you're crazy. But Kodak is this old camera company that went out of business, but they basically invented film and all this kind of stuff and had the first personal cameras. And there was a point in Kodak's history, which we're about to watch here, where somebody came up with digital cameras, and they had a terrible reaction to this because of a complacent mindset, because they were deceiving themselves that if they kept doing what they're doing, they would be fine. And this is why a lot of businesses really fails. They get real complacent when they're on top, right? So this is something we're going to want to avoid, but let's watch this real quick.
This is how Kodak caused their own failure. Throughout the 20th century, Kodak had a complete dominance over photographic film sales in the Western world.
So this is when you're at the top of your business. This is when you're winning. This is when everything's firing on all cylinders.
Anyone interested in photography could buy a Kodak camera, Kodak film, Kodak flash bulbs, and could even send the film to Kodak for development. They were making a killing.
And again, that's a great business model. You have all these different upsells, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
But in 1975, a 24-year-old engineer at Kodak, Stephen Sasson, came to the executives with an invention: the first handheld digital camera.
All right, this is where things go really south in your decision making if you don't consistently ask for feedback, right? Because you're going to deceive yourself. You're going to get this ego where you think you're invincible, and in business, you're really never invincible.
This was set to revolutionize photography forever. If you're thinking to yourself, wow, what a great financial opportunity for Kodak, then you're not Kodak executive material.
Yeah, I love that part. It's hilarious. Yes. Yeah. So again, it's easy. You can be a president of a company. You can just be starting a business. You could be 55 or you could be 18. And this phenomenon of self-deception still applies to you.
Because the board quickly rejected the invention. They feared that selling digital cameras would compete against their sales of film.
Do you hear that fear right there? So they thought, oh, if we come up with this new thing, we have to start over. We have to try new stuff. We have to go through a new product development and all this kind of stuff. And they were afraid of doing the hard work.
Stephen Sasson was forbidden from telling anyone about his invention, and Kodak kept selling film.
This is so silly because obviously if one person came up with it, somebody else at some point will, right?
In the 1990s, Kodak's day of reckoning arrived when their profits began to plummet as other companies sold digital cameras. They tried to switch to digital photography, but it was far too late.
And this is why timing's everything. This is why you want to build asking for feedback into your system. And I'll explain why here in a minute. But basically, Kodak should have, right, asked what their customers wanted and given them digital cameras rather than trying to corner the market. And, their customers wanted a better product. And so when digital cameras came out, so then boom, everybody start buying the digital cameras. And if they were asking for feedback while they had everyone's attention, they could have come out with that and created the best digital cameras of all time at that time.
Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2012 and emerged as a much smaller company. But at least they still have this cool logo.
Oh, well, I misspoke. So I don't think Kodak's is 100% out of business, but they did file bankruptcy and destroyed their, market share at that time. But the whole idea here, right, is people, when we get on top, we stop trying, we become complacent, right? And we think that we're doing things better than we actually are. And then we get to this egotism, right? This sense of self-righteousness, this sense of, oh yeah, we got this thing, nothing needs to change. And then boom, everything changes, and now you're kind of out of a company at this point. And so, I want you to avoid that. I'd like to avoid that in my business career as well. I want to have this mentality of the infinite mindset, which is a Simon Sinek book. And it's a concept of the idea is that the game, you really never win or lose the game. To win the game is just to continue to exist. And you have all these unknown, players and unknown things that can happen. You can't predict them. And so you need to be setting up your model to have an infinite mindset with your company. So don't take this episode the wrong way, right? It's not to be discouraging to you. When you realize that you're deceiving yourself, which I do this all the time, and I always have to check myself and ask for feedback. And a lot of times I hear when I ask for feedback and I confront this, I get feedback I do not like, okay? Every single human being does this because we want to be comfortable. We want to be dominant. We want to be winners. We don't like being losers. Nobody likes to face their mistakes. And because of that, it causes this self-deception to where we try to live in this fantasy land where we're doing everything correctly, okay? And this is not going to help you master your purpose in life. It's not going to help you be a good mom, dad. It's not going to help you be a good business owner, right? There's 3 things that self-deception does for you or does to you when you are in this mindset. Okay, so 3 things. So number 1, self-deception makes you less effective because when you think you've made it, you stop being intentional with your growth, right? Which makes total sense. If you become the best in the arena, we've talked about this on the show before with talent is a curse, you stop trying to become better because now you have outgrown or at least beaten your immediate, peers. And therefore you become less intentional, more lazy, more complacent, and then people start to catch up. Number 2, right? It inhibits your inventiveness. You stop trying to create new, innovative solutions to problems when you are deceiving yourself because you think everything's hunky-dory. And usually people only get out of this self-deception mindset when something bad happens, right? So that's where that's leading to a big blow up. Number 3, self-deception causes more pain than changing would, right? You're usually deferring pain later in life if you don't change than what the upfront pain is going to feel like. So if the upfront pain is, you've got to invest $5,000 to fix something, but the long-term pain is you lose $50,000 because you have to fix the entire thing or you have to replace something. If we're thinking about a machine, that makes sense to people, right? So we want to handle things early, and we want to do the same thing with our leadership abilities and how we run our businesses, our product, services, everything. This self-deception relates to really every part of your business because you can be deceiving yourself about your product. You can be deceiving yourself about your service, just like Kodak did. It's like, oh, well, if we try to hush this, then we'll dominate. We'll have a bunch of cash. And it's like, that doesn't work. Okay, so here's a really good story to illustrate this point even just like one last step further. We're gonna beat the horse while it's down. Imagine there's 2 lumberjacks, right? So lumberjacks are going out to chop some wood. I love this example. One lumberjack is chopping wood for 12 hours a day. The other lumberjack is chopping wood for 6 hours a day. The lumberjacks start at the same time. They finish at the same time. In the middle of the day, the first lumberjack who's doing 12 hours will see the second lumberjack go and leave chopping wood. He's like, that's weird. And he keeps chopping. They both end up with the same amount of wood every single day, even though Lumberjack 2 works less hours. So the first Lumberjack decides to go and ask Lumberjack 2, how are you cutting as much wood as I am if I'm working twice as many hours as you? And Lumberjack 1 asks him, says, hey, where are you going for half the day that you're not actually working? He says, oh, well, actually, Lumberjack 2 answers, he says, well, what I'm doing is I actually take a break. I go fuel up because I perform better when I am energized and have had food. And then I actually sharpen my axe. And the idea is that he has systems in place to have a better output, and he thinks differently than Lumberjack 1. Now, where self-deception can come in is Lumberjack 1 just starts telling himself, well, I should just work harder. you know what, if I work 13 hours, I'll have more than him, right? Because you know what, I can do this thing myself. And the reason that's going to really hurt you, right? Obviously, or that obviously makes a ton of sense if you were to double down. But the thing is this lumberjack example is so clear to us, but we often double down and say, no, I've got to do it myself, or I've got to really push hard to if I just work more hours, this will work. And if you really take a look at the situation, you actually are deceiving yourself. You have to change you have to change your habits, you have to change your systems, which takes a lot of work. And a lot of times you have to put the brakes on making as much money as possible right now to develop the systems to be in place so you can make a larger volume of money, just push down maybe a month or two while you build everything out. So we're gonna watch this video on how ego really will just destroy what you're trying to do. Okay, don't let your ego control you, from Jocko Willink. This is what's happening when we start to deceive ourselves. Check it out.
Your ego is going to lie to you. That's what our ego does. Our ego is going to lie to us.
Really important. Your ego is gonna lie to you. You are gonna lie to yourself. Expect it. So feedback's super important because it'll help you catch these blind spots. Your ego's lying to you, somebody will tell you the truth.
Your ego's smart. Your ego's, it's like the devil. You ever seen the movie The Exorcist?
Yes.
So in the movie The Exorcist, the devil knows the things to say to the priest that's gonna get him.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So your ego knows what you want. Your ego wants to be in charge. It wants you to feel superior. Like that's just what the ego does, right? So you want to avoid this.
And your ego is equally smart as the devil. Mm-hmm. And it knows, my ego's like, hey, Jocko. Hey, I know I get extreme ownership, but this time is actually really is Echo's fault. Echo's plan's really not as good as yours.
And this is where he's talking about with his book that's pretty good about basically as a leader, you need to say everything's your fault and not deceive yourself with your ego, right? Okay, so your ego is going to talk to you. And so the only way that I've found to really get around this consistently, because I'm not trying to teach you like one stop, here's one solution for one time. What I want you to do is solve this problem with consistency. And the way that you do that is you put in steps to ask for feedback. When your business is struggling or when you're struggling or you don't know what to do or what's next, you should ask for feedback. If something's consistently happening to you, ask for feedback. And there's 3 reasons why people don't ask for feedback. Okay, number 1, when you're asking for feedback, you know it's going to be painful. It's something you do not want to hear. It's something that is really going to hurt you. Probably. You're going to feel bad about it, and it's going to be a mistake and it's going to require apology. The second reason that we don't like asking for feedback is it gives us more work. And who wants more work, right? Not me. Nobody wants more work. And we often avoid asking feedback because it's going to be more work. And number 3, it forces us to reflect on the parts of us that we really don't like. And I know for a fact that none of us like to think about those things, and we like to avoid those things like the plague, to the point where we avoid certain activities because we don't like how we feel when we do them, right? But when you do ask for feedback, here's what's happening for you, right? There's 3 main benefits that are the complete opposite of what we just said. Number 1, because it's painful, it forces you to grow as a human being, a leader, and a business owner. It forces you. You don't change unless there's pain. Right? And it's better to attack the pain head on when it doesn't hurt as bad as it could than to have something as the most painful thing happen later and it's out of our control and we don't get to confront it on our own terms. We're confronted by it. Number 2, when you do this, you are given objective metrics that you know are true, okay, in a clear direction of what you need to change. There's no sugarcoating. Now, I'm not saying that you should definitely vet who you're asking feedback from. In this case, I'm talking about clients. I'm talking about employees. I'm talking about leaders in your organization, asking them for feedback on your leadership, asking your clients if your products and services are actually good. And if they're not, changing things, right? But this tells you exactly how to grow your business. Hey, do you like this? Do you not? You don't? Okay, we're changing that, right? And then the next person, they like it even better, and you ask the same thing and you keep doing it, right? But it's very often we neglect this. Number 3, okay, when you ask for feedback, it speeds up your growth curve instead of just making the same mistakes over and over and over and trying to masterfully discover what everyone else can see, because that just takes a lot of time, a lot of reflection. People will just tell you, and it's way faster. It's way faster, right? So not only are you forced to grow, you know exactly what you need to work on, but it also helps you grow faster. And that's why you need to start asking for feedback. These can be as simple as, putting in a survey into what you're doing with the people around you, your family members, your leaders, right? 4 practical takeaways of how to actually apply this, right? Because we talk a lot about the mindset, but it's not about what you know, it's about what you apply. And so I want you to apply this. 4 blind spots that we all have. So some of us don't know if our product or service is good or bad, and you need to be asking for feedback. Is this good or bad? How can I improve this? Every single client that you talk to, ask them why they signed up or why they didn't. And figure out what those problems are with your sales process. Figure out what they are with the product, the service. Number 2, with leadership, right? So if you don't know that you're coming off in a bad way, not only will your brand suffer when you're trying to sell and people maybe don't want to talk to you again, but number 2, like all of your employees and people who work with you and partner with you are going to get frustrated with you. And again, that's gonna limit the size of your business. Number 3, if you don't know how you're coming off to the people specifically that you are leading, if they're not growing at your organization, they're going to find a place that will help them grow, right? People want to feel appreciated. It's the number one reason they quit. So you got to know, do they feel appreciated? How are they feeling? So ask for feedback. And again, you may get some answers you don't like. Finally, number 4, when you ask for feedback, it's really, really helpful because it's never your industry. It's always a reflection of you, how your business grows. So like there is someone somewhere doing well in the industry that you're in. That's why it's called an industry. There are other people who are successful players at what you're doing. And so if your business is not doing as well as theirs, it all comes back to you. And the reason business doesn't grow, right? It just really comes back to that self-deception. So start asking for feedback, right? Ask yourself, how often are you asking for feedback and who are you asking? Are you asking every single person that you should be asking? Are you asking your team, your employees, your clients, your family members? How better can you ask for feedback? How can you make it simple for people so you can get it more consistently? Comment with your thoughts below on this. Like, what do you do when you ask for feedback? What are some of the reactions that you get? I'd love to chat through some of these things with you because I've asked for feedback in a lot of situations and it's sometimes the most painful experience when you ask. But for me, in my experience, after I went through the pain of asking for feedback, I knew what I needed to work on, and my businesses always improved through this process. Before we end the episode, a quick word from one of our sponsors, Campus Cuts by Monica. If you are a male at the University of Tennessee or with walking distance of Cumberland Avenue Strip or really within 5 minutes, and you're somebody who wants to look good, feel good, and get an awesome haircut, you got to go down to Campus Cuts by Monica on Cumberland Avenue. So it's right next to the Regions Bank. She's really great. They've got a pool table and everything. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for sticking around for hopefully a short episode here. If you're somebody who wants to master your purpose and grow your business, I invite you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel and stick around. We have a lot of really cool content coming out every single week on Thursdays. We've already done over 250 videos and we're going to be coming out with some different courses, some things to help you guys. So I really appreciate you. And soon we are coming out with something called the Lion Chasers Book Club for us to face our problems as business owners and discuss it and grow together and have some accountability there. So we'll have an interest form in the description. Fill that out right down there if you want to join, and we appreciate you guys.